We begin on Wall Street, where the markets are dropping as a result of President Trump's wide-ranging tariffs on all of the U.S.'s trade partners. As you can see here, the Dow is down just about 3.33% since the start of the day. The S&P 500 and the tech-heavy NASDAQ are suffering even more significant losses. The president declared the U.S.'s trade deficit a national emergency during a Rose Garden ceremony at the White House Wednesday. And he announced 10% baseline tariffs on all U.S. trading partners, which will go into effect April 5th. He also announced reciprocal tariffs against what he's calling the world's worst offenders starting April 9th. President Trump says the levies will level the playing field for U.S. trade on a global scale.
Thank you very much. We're going to see the big golf tournament at Doral. I'm speaking tonight for charity. And then we'll be coming back here pretty quickly. But they're having a big event, and a lot of charitable causes are involved. So we look forward to that. It's in Miami at Doral.
President Trump, the markets today are way down, the worst day in years because of the tariffs. So how's it going?
I think it's going very well. It was an operation, like when a patient gets operated on. And it's a big thing. I said this would exactly be the way it is. We have $6 or $7 trillion coming into our country, and we've never seen anything like it. The markets are going to boom. The stock is going to boom. The country is going to boom. And the rest of the world wants to see, is there any way they can make a deal? They've taken advantage of us for many, many years. For many years, we've been at the wrong side of the ball, and I'll tell you what, I think it's going to be unbelievable. The thing that people have to talk about, we're up almost to $7 trillion of investment coming into our country, and you'll see how it's going to turn out. Our country's going to boom.
Both President Trump and his administration say Americans could expect to feel short-term pain as a result of the tariffs, but maintain the mission is long-term success. Let's turn to CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi. Olivia, President Trump standing firm on his decision despite the market's reactions. What do you make of his response in terms of substance and brevity?
Well, I do think what he's trying to do there is frame what's happening in the markets as a good thing. We have seen this time and time again with Trump talking about tariffs, where he's talked about it and the markets have responded poorly as a result. But what he's saying there is trying to turn the narrative that eventually we will start to see all of this investment come back into the U.S. and we'll see manufacturing at home boom. That will create a better economy for the middle class. And then as a result, wages will go up and then the stock market will go up as well. But this is something that takes years to develop. We have talked about this time and time again, Lindsay, of even though they say they're bringing manufacturing back, you can't just stand up any of these factories on any given day to turn on and then start making products here in America. This takes time. It takes money. It takes investment. And there are companies who are coming back and making that investment here. But again, this is a costly, timely venture that this administration is taking on. We see the market responding to that today. Ultimately, it'll be up to the consumer to see how they respond to it politically and with their wallets and how they vote.
Is there any indication on the tolerance level the White House has for what Commerce Secretary Lednick calls short-term movement?
You know, that's a good question. We've been seeing some conversation today about that topic, but also about negotiations with other countries. Trump yesterday in that Rose Garden event said to any of the countries who are going to call him or companies who are going to call him and complain about the tariffs on them, he said the result is simple. Make your product here, there will be zero tariff. And we know that those reciprocal tariffs are not going to go into effect until April 9th. That's next week. So we have a couple days to play around with any of these companies or countries calling the president to perhaps persuade him or make those negotiations that there shouldn't be as high of a tariff on them. We heard Lednick say today, though, that the whole point of this is to reorder the global trade, to reorganize it, to put the U.S. back at the top so that we are manufacturing and exporting high dollar goods rather than low dollar goods and getting low wages as a result of it. We also heard from Caroline Leavitt, who said that this is not a negotiation, this is a national emergency. So the White House seems to be sticking by their guns as far as making sure that these tariffs stay in place and that there is no daylight between Trump and letting these tariffs go.
And CBS News has confirmed at least 3 National Security Council staffers were fired. More dismissals are expected. This follows reports that The president was planning to fire several NSC officials over concerns they're not loyal enough. What should we know?
Yeah, there were 3 senior staff members of the National Security Council who were let go today. This comes as a result of a meeting that Trump had at the White House with Laura Loomer, who's a far-right policy or podcaster who went to the White House and presented Trump with what they called opposition research, And in that research, she laid out reasons why she thinks that these particular people on the NSC staff were seen as not loyal to the president or neoconservatives, whose message really on foreign policy is antithetical to what Trump's is. She presented him with this, and we know as a result, these 3 were let go. There are more expected to be let go as a result, so we should absolutely be keeping our eye out on that and any movement on that in the coming hours or days. But all very interesting that Laura Loomer was the one who presented Trump with these details, and we are seeing this as a result.
Olivia, Rinaldi, thank you. For more on President Trump's new tariffs and how the markets are reacting, let's bring in CBS News MoneyWatch correspondent Kelly O'Grady, who joins me in Studio 57. Short-term movement, a reordering, words I'm guessing investors don't love.
Yeah, and you're seeing that reflected in the markets today. I think what investors were hoping for was a little bit more targeted of a list with countries, as well as a smaller tariff amount. And in fact, when the president was speaking yesterday in aftermarket trading, he mentioned the 10% baseline tariff. The markets actually went up, and it was really when he started talking about the reciprocal tariffs. I mean, the 54%, when you add the existing 20% tariff on China and then this new tariff, 46% with Vietnam. And you mentioned that the tech-heavy NASDAQ is down today in your intro. That's because these tech companies rely so much on China, Taiwan, these Asian nations. And so investors are looking at a situation and going, hey, bringing manufacturing here, great idea long term, but this short term is going to be really tough.
So the price of consumer goods expected to climb. Where do you think American consumers are going to feel the biggest impact?
So, look, we're likely going to see impact on a lot of different goods. If you think about, even in your home or what we're wearing right now, where these goods come from. Where you could see the most impact, though, in terms of dollar amount, cars, we have estimates a few $1,000s on the low end to over $10,000 on the high end. That's pretty significant. Big businesses, retailers like a Walmart and whatnot that have more of their production in Canada and Mexico and the U.S. They've really decreased their reliance on China. That's where you're going to see less. But it's going to be these companies that still have most of their supply chain wrapped up in China and in these Asian nations where it's going to be the most. So clothing is also a big one.
And it takes a minute to change the supply chain, right? I mean, you can't just overnight make a call and all of a sudden your product is being produced somewhere else.
Correct. And that's where all of these businesses now have to navigate. Do I invest billions? There is the capability here. We actually talked to a fabric store owner that said to me, you can't actually do this in the U.S. as easily as you can over there. But we've also talked this could be a negotiation tactic to get these countries to the table and say, what can I do so that I don't have this massive tariff?
Okay, so obviously the biggest ones hit right now, China, Vietnam. Are you surprised that Canada and Mexico, apart from the goods not under the USMCA, Mexico and Canada weren't hit hard yesterday?
So I am not, because you and I have talked about that trade deal, USMCA, a lot. And that would have been a big violation of that trade deal. And so I think the president has also seen from these tariffs that he has threatened, put on, taken off, that Mexico and Canada have come to the table and they have been willing to negotiate. So I do wonder if there are more conversations to be had there versus going with that full tariff like he did on these other countries.
Okay, Kelly O'Grady, thank you so much, as always. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are reacting to President Trump's tariff announcement with reports of some unease on Capitol Hill. On Wednesday, 4 Republican senators broke rank, voting with Democrats to block new levies from being imposed on Canada. Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell was one of the people who crossed the aisle. The others are on your screen. In a post on X, McConnell said in part, quote, "As I have always warned, tariffs are bad policy and trade wars with our partners hurt working people most. Tariffs drive up the cost of goods and services. They are a tax on everyday working Americans. Preserving the long-term prosperity of American industry and workers requires working with our allies, not against them." President Trump's worldwide tariffs sent global markets reeling today. Stock markets in Beijing and Tokyo sank to multi-month lows. Japan's Nikkei finished down almost 3%. In Europe, felt the pressure as well. Here's how the president of the European Commission reacted.
All businesses, big and small, will suffer from day one. From greater uncertainty to the disruption of supply chains, to burdensome bureaucracy, the costs of doing business with the United States will drastically increase. And what is more, there seems to be no order in the disorder, no clear path through the complexity and chaos that is being created as all U.S. trading partners are hit.
European Union leaders say they will hold off on retaliating for now, stressing they're ready to negotiate with the U.S.